Oh, kia ora everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Willy's Workshop.
I've made a huge mistake. I've sold my parts car, the buyer is on his way, and I've just realised I need about half the parts off it before he gets here. I'm standing here with little more than a greasy wrench, staring at a car that isn't even mine anymore, and my to-do list has spiralled completely out of control. This isn't just grabbing a few bits and pieces, it's a full-blown mechanical heist against a ticking clock. My own clock. That I set. This is a terrible idea. Alright, let me explain how I got into this mess. This is my project car, my pride and joy, the one I'm actually trying to build. And this was my donor car. I bought it for a few key pieces, but now it's just taking up space. And the Homeowners Association is starting to send some politely worded but very threatening letters. So I did the sensible thing. I sold it. A guy offered a fair price, and he's coming to trailer it away today. The problem is, late last night I made a list. It started small, just a couple of interior trim pieces, but one thing led to another, and my small list became a multi-page epic.
That's a bit of a bugger of a rust bowl right in the corner. The paint here ain't fantastic. So the wheel bearing in this is no good, and the wheel bearing in this is no good. Also, tyres are a bit flat. This right here is not normal. This right here, who's that? This right here is pretty limp. These are useless. Might need to fix that.
This is a classic case of scope creep, and it's the number one killer of project cars and deadlines. Starts with one tiny change and quickly snowballs into a complete disaster. And right now, I'm standing in the middle of a self-inflicted disaster zone. The buyer just texted. He's 2 hours out. I need the bonnet, some interior trim, the gear linkage, the entire exhaust, and now, for some reason, I've decided I also need the suspension springs. Can I strip this car down to a rolling shell before the new owner arrives to claim his property? Let's find out.
Oh, she's looking grey.
Every good project starts with a small, manageable goal to build momentum. For me, it was the sun visors. The ones in my project car are trashed, and these ones are pretty near perfect. This is the easy win. Screwdriver, a few twists, and boom! Part 1 is out. Look at that. Progress. This is going to be a breeze. I'm cleaning and demolding these parts because there's nothing worse than ruining the joy of reassembly and having dirty, smelly parts sitting there till the very end. That's a lesson you only need to learn once.
Uh-oh.
There's the sound of rain. Oh dear. Oh, at least there's sunny all the way over there somewhere.
Okay, visor's done, confidence is high, a little too high, so I start looking around. You know, the bonnet on this car is in much better shape than mine. No dents, better paint. It'd be a crime to let it go to the scrapper. Swapping a bonnet is easy, right? 4 bolts on the hinges and it lifts right off. This will take 10 minutes, tops. So I grab my socket set and get to work. The hinge bolts are a little crusty, but with a bit of leverage they break free. I lift the bonnet off, feel like a Formula 1 pit crew chief, and carry it over to my project car. I line it up, drop it on the hinges, and it doesn't fit, not even close. The front edge is sitting an inch too low, and it's completely crooked. This is where the plan starts to unravel. The problem isn't the bonnet, the problem is the front brace underneath it. On the donor car, it's a slightly different shape, which is what the bonnet latch and supports are aligned to. After some closer inspection, it appears there is a slight bow to the front end of the red ace from a prior fender bender. So, if I want this bonnet, I don't need just the bonnet. I need the entire front crossmember assembly. My 10-minute job just exploded into an hour-long ordeal involving a dozen more bolts, all buried deep in rust. The clock is ticking and I'm already falling behind thanks to that classic scope creep I talked about. I had a plan and then a shiny new part distracted me and the plan went right out the window. Alright, new plan. The front brace has to come out. This means disconnecting the radiator and wrestling with bolts that haven't seen daylight in a decade. I grab my breaker bar for a particularly stubborn bolt on the frame rail. Give it a good heave, put all my weight into it. Nothing. Try again, and then I hear it, that sickening, high-pitched ping of shearing metal. Did the head bolt just snap clean off, leaving the rusted stub stuck in the frame? This is that moment in every car project where you question all of your life choices. It's a shared pain point every mechanic knows all too well. One snapped bolt could add another hour to my timeline. Then I have to drill it out, try to extract it, and if that fails I have to cut it, all while the buyer gets closer and closer. Luckily today, the answer is no, but we came awfully close. The WD-40 does its job and we're able to extract all the bolts without major setbacks. Some careful finessing back and forth as we torque out the bolts, plus some retap and dyeing the threads means we got away with it this time. So the front brace is free. I wrestle it out of the engine bay, greasy and sweating, and throw it on the ground. Small victory, but it feels monumental.
Oh my god. Not only was that bent, this was bent. This is bent. It can all get fucking bent. Oh my god. What's the time? This has been like, I think this has been 2 hours? 2 hours. Just this. At least 2 hours. Could be 3. I've lost track. Man, that works like brand new now. I cannot believe it. That sits a little low. I'm not going to worry about realigning that. Not today. Yes. Yes. That was... should have done that from the start.
And that's when the sickness takes over again. The "while I'm here" disease. It's a terminal condition for project car owners. While I'm in here, with all this access, I might as well grab the gear linkage. The one in my project car feels sloppy.
This right here is pretty limp. And I'm not sure if this is the cause or something further down the line. It does grind in first and reverse a little bit. So it could be the linkage here or the end of the clutch.
And this one is tight and crisp. This means getting under the car. So out come the jack and the jack stands. Safety first. Never, ever work under a car that's only held up by a jack. Get some extra friends like Tom, Dick and Harry to help out, because cars are heavy and Jack can't hold it all up by himself. Working on your back under a car is a special kind of misery. Rust, dirt and unidentifiable grime fall directly into your eyes and mouth and ears. The bolts for the linkage are, of course, sea solid. I dose them in penetrating oil and wait, staring up at the greasy underbelly of this car, just listening to the minutes tick away.
Wait, this looks like it might be our culprit. Side to side, up and down, twisty turny. This one looks all good. I have to check the other end as well. I'm not sure how much play is meant to be in the gearbox itself. We'll change this and we'll drive it, hopefully. And then we will figure out if we need to change the clutch or not, because that could both be, either both problems could exist, or it could just be this. This is the first job. I'm glad that, I felt like it had a lot of slop, and it looks like it does.
Alright, while I wait for this penetrating oil to hopefully work its magic and save me from snapping another bolt, this seems like a good time to talk about planning. The best way to fight scope creep is to have a strict game plan. I obviously failed to do that today. I let my goals wander and now I'm paying the price. If you want to see me actually stick to a plan and install all these parts on my project car, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that glorious success, or, more likely, another catastrophic failure. Okay, back to it. The gear linkage finally comes free after a fight involving a breaker bar, a hammer and more shouting. I crawl out from underneath the car holding my prize, feeling a surge of accomplishment.
There we go. Might be able to hear the thunder in the background. So we got the white car out, and the bushes are pretty good. There's not a lot of play, and this is, considering how old these cars are, it's in remarkably good condition.
I now have a respectable looking pile of parts, my eyes drift further down to the underbody, to the exhaust. It's a full, original, complete system. It'd be a tragedy to let this go to the scrapyard too. I know, I have a problem. At this point, I'm not even thinking about the clock. I am just a man possessed. I tell myself, it'll be quick. A few clamps, a few rubber hangers, but of course, it's not. The regular exhaust comes off hunky-dory, but the mismatched, mangled Frankenstein on my car is a nightmare to get off. The clamps are rusted into the solid lumps of metal. These bolts might as well be welded on. There's no unbolting this, there is only cutting. Out comes the angle grinder, showering sparks everywhere. I'm slicing through the bolts and trying to avoid creating a symphony of destruction. It's loud, messy, and surprisingly therapeutic. The entire exhaust system crashes to the ground in the end. I drag it over to my growing pile of mechanical treasure.
Well, we just grinded off the exhaust. That was probably been 3 days worth of work trying to avoid grinding it off, but we've done it now. It's off. Unfortunately, GoPro is starting to break down. It's overheating quite a lot, so we lost a bit of footage of that. I think I got some sparks, but I think we'll just pull them out now and have a closer look at the difference between the two exhausts, so you might be able to see why I decided in the end to switch them over.
Now I'm standing here covered in grease, sweat, and metal shavings. I check my phone. The buyer is on their way, travelling across the country. A normal person would call it a day, clean up the mess, put the tools away, and wait. But I am not a normal person. My eyes lock onto the last, most absurd item on my list, the suspension springs. This is a terrible, terrible idea. Removing coil springs is genuinely dangerous. They store a massive amount of energy, and if they let go, they can cause serious injury or even kill you. You need a special tool, a spring compressor, and even then, things can go horribly wrong. My brain is screaming at me to stop, but the project car goblin on my shoulder is whispering, think of the money you'll save. I have a spring compressor though. It's one of those cheap ones that people on the internet forums always warn you about, but time is short and my judgment is clearly impaired. I jack the car up again, whip the wheel off and start trying to attach the compressor. But wait, this doesn't look right. A gasp of relief. With this type of suspension, I don't actually need it. After jacking up the car and loosening 2 bolts, the springs practically fall off, letting me replace them with ease. Now I'm about to remove the lower control arm bolt when my phone buzzes. It's the buyer. My heart sinks. He's here. He's outside, and I'm standing in a disaster zone with a car on jack stands, its guts piled up on my driveway and a spring that's good for nothing. I've lost. There's no time. I frantically but carefully reinstall the spring. I throw the wheel back on, finger tightening the lug nuts. I lower the car off the jack stands just as the buyer rounds the corner of the house, closely followed by the tow truck driver. He just stares. He looks at the sad, stripped car. He looks at the enormous pile of parts on the driveway. Then he looks at me, the creature of pure grease and failure. I'm expecting anger, maybe confusion, or a demand for his money back at least. He just slowly shakes his head. A grin spreads across his face. Couldn't find the time, huh? He says. We spend the next half an hour laughing as we put the car back in a reasonable condition, and then the tow truck driver expertly winches the carcass onto his flatbed. He didn't care so much about the parts. He just wanted the shell and the running gear for a project of his own. I might have lost the race against time, but in a weird way, it feels like a win. So, what's the takeaway from this all? First, scope creep is real, and it will turn a simple job into an absolute nightmare if you let it. Make a list and stick to it. Second, always budget way more time than you think you need, especially when it comes to rusty bolts. And third, maybe just don't try to pull any high tension springs off a car when you know the buyer is just minutes away. That won't work out well. Now, I have this giant pile of parts to show for my chaotic day. Was it worth the stress and the panic? Absolutely, but the real challenge is just beginning. Now I have to make all this stuff fit onto my project car. So thanks for watching this descent into madness. If you want to see the next chapter of this story and find out if any of these stolen parts actually work, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss it.